I have 3 children, and my husband, of course. Rosemary is 4. She's neurotypical. No difficulty with Rosemary. Lucy is 8. She has autism spectrum and ADHD. And Avery is almost 11. He's autism spectrum and ADHD. He's more severely affected than Lucy is. He has quite a few behavioral difficulties, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
Lucy is almost quite on the Asperger's end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Whereas Avery has the behavioral difficulties, he has the communication difficulties, he has the social difficulties,
Yeah.
He has the delays in the cognition, the
Yeah.
thinking, whereas Lucy is more quirky.
Right.
She's a little flighty. She definitely has the difficulties with social interaction, but she's very bright.
Right.
Not that Avery's not bright, he's just not able to communicate.
Yeah.
So Avery was diagnosed April 1st of 2007. I remember the exact date because it was April Fool's. Avery was not quite 3 when he was diagnosed, and we had a 4-month-old Lucy, and we found out Avery is on the autism spectrum, and we're going to have this whole other thing to learn about
Yeah.
in addition to having a newborn at home. Lucy was diagnosed right around age 2 because we kind of had our eyes out for it,
Right.
and we had her evaluated, and we found out she was also on the autism spectrum. He never quite got the language that he was supposed to get. And then when he would acquire language, we'd not hear that word again,
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd say mama once, and then it's like, okay, when are you going to say it again, buddy?
Yeah.
But it's like, no, he didn't. He did have behaviors then. He wouldn't interact with other children. He did not have the eye contact. He didn't have the language. He had some of the symptoms, like the toe walking and the hand flapping.
Right.
But we just thought, well, maybe he's just a boy and he's developing late. While I was pregnant with Lucy, my midwife took one look at Avery and said, oh, no, he is delayed. You need to have him evaluated by the early intervention people right away. So that's what we ended up doing. Having Avery diagnosed when he was 3, you kind of always are paranoid and keep your eyes out for if your next child is developing normally. It's like, oh, hey, she should be talking by now. Why isn't she talking? We had her evaluated early. We knew some of the process to who to call and have her checked out, that sort of thing. And we were all already involved in early intervention, so we had her evaluated by the same early intervention people, and they said, oh yeah, she definitely has delays. I don't think her official diagnosis came until she was around 5 or so.
Right.
But we knew she had delays. We just didn't take her to the psychiatrist at that time, but she was already in earlier intervention for the delays that they documented.
Right.
Yes. It's kind of fly by the seat of your pants.
Yeah.
And doing what's best for your child at that appropriate time. As far as learning to care for your child with special needs, there's not a book.
Right.
There's not, what to expect the toddler years for the autism spectrum child.
Right.
There's nothing. It's depending a lot on other parents that have been through this before, that have older children that may have similar behaviors. It's listening a lot to the school because they have a lot of experience with a child with difficult behaviors and the autism spectrum. You just got to do what's best for your child. I mean, like for instance, most typical children, they're going to potty train, 2, 3, 4 years old.
Right.
Avery, he didn't care. And there's nothing that you can use to motivate him like you would maybe a neurotypical child.
Right.
Sticker chart or candy or Avery doesn't have that internal motivator.
Right.
So it's like you really just have to do what's best for the child and follow the child's lead. I tried to get involved with parent support groups, but unfortunately there's not a heck of a lot of parent support groups in the Portland, Vancouver area for children with autism spectrum. There's the occasional group, but it kind of just falls apart. There's not a regular schedule. You know, families get busy, summer breaks, and, you know, you have a kid with special needs. You're not always going to be able to get away on the second Thursday at 2 o'clock.
Exactly.
Yeah. Family support groups are inconsistent.
Yeah.
And when they are available, it's difficult to get away.
Yeah.
Because you can't find childcare for a special needs child.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Yeah.
Right.
There's different online groups that I've been involved in. Like, for instance, a couple different Facebook groups. It's parents of autistic children, or autistic moms group, or, you know, something like that. You can do a search. And those are much more consistently active than the physical going to a meeting room groups. And you can get involved and you can ask questions, ask for resources, ask who's been through this before. And it's much easier to do that as opposed to going to a group. Yeah. Finding resources is a lot of asking your online parents group, hey, where do you go for this? My child is doing this. How can I get help for this? As far as medical and dental, it's a lot of asking, who do you trust with your child? Who has good experience with autism kids? Who's gentle? Who works with them? And Avery's special behaviors, he can't sit still and have an x-ray on his teeth done. He can't sit still and have, you know, dental work done. He's actually been under general anesthesia twice to have dental work done because there's that's our only option. And of course, insurance doesn't pay 100%, so we're paying that portion out of pocket. Getting them to pay for services is a headache and a half. My son and my daughter get great services, OT and speech and PT, that sort of thing, through the school district. But getting them privately is not easy. and it's like, I work full time. I go to school full time. I have 3 kids, and I have a second job of basically fighting with our insurance company, trying to get these, you know, different services paid for. I had to take a break from school, cut back my hours at work, because advocating for my children is a whole other job that I got to devote 100% to. A lot of it is you know, asking their parents or, you know, your resource groups. Like there's a great resource at the Arc of Southwest Washington. There's a great lady there, the Parent Coalition person, asking, how do you get these services paid for through your insurance? What hoops do you have to jump through? And then when you do find it to get covered, which isn't easy, trying to find somebody to provide those services once you finally get the approval from your insurance. A lot of these different places, we're only going to take children up to the age of, you know, 12, or we're not accepting children right now. We have no room on our caseload. I've been working with the state, trying to get Avery coverage for his disability, which should be automatically covered because he does have a documented disability. So he can get the Medicaid waiver or something, so we can have other options open up to us, because some of these places that offer the services don't accept private insurance. You have to be on the state insurance. So you have to work with the state and jump through all the hoops and fill out all the paperwork and finally get that. No. It's a game. You have to know exactly what to ask for. You have to go to your parent support groups, your parent supports, and ask them, what exactly should I be asking for at this IEP meeting? Do I need to ask for, you know, can I ask for more services through OT, through speech? Can I ask for a one-to-one aid? Can I ask for a private school to be paid for by the school district? I don't know. I did not know any of this prior to getting involved in my parent support groups, prior to the parent coalition at the ARC of Southwest Washington. I didn't know this, and the school district isn't volunteering this information. Have you ever looked at that thick packet of rights that they give you at every IEP meeting? Have you ever read it? It's ridiculous. It's legal speak.
Yeah.
I don't know how to interpret that.
Yeah.
And I consider myself relatively smart, college educated. I can't make heads or tails of it.
Yeah.
So we need a lawyer, we need a parent advocate, we need somebody that knows how to work the system to help us advocate for our child, because the school district isn't doing it.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be, but they're not. As far as what's being stated by the professionals, I think I mostly understand what's being stated by professionals. Some of it's jargon, you don't really understand what's going on. I would say no. At an IEP meeting, it's just a draft. But nothing changes. That's the one that you get in your child's backpack the next day. They've already had it written out. They're not going to write it while you're sitting there in the IEP meeting. It's already been written. So no, I'm not satisfied with my level of participation. Definitely not. For Lucy, yes, the level of services she's getting is mostly appropriate. For Avery, no. I would definitely emphatically say no. Because of his problem behaviors, his aggression, they've had a difficult time managing him in the home school district. So we've actually had to move to a special private school in Portland to manage Avery. We've had to hire an attorney to get all the services that Avery is entitled to under the free and appropriate education. The school district doesn't volunteer these extra services. You have to know exactly what to ask for. You have to know exactly who to ask for it. And sometimes you have to get your attorney involved in saying, he deserves this, why aren't you giving this to him? But it's really just honestly a game with the school district that you have to know what to ask for, because they're not going to volunteer like, oh, we have this service available, would you like to? No, they're not doing that. No. But for Lucy, I believe for the most part she's getting the appropriate services, but her autism is a lot less severe than Avery's. So I believe they have more experience with that. I believe they have the resources to deal with Lucy and to get her the appropriate education, but not so much for Avery. And that's primarily why we hired an attorney, because they're not volunteering to spend money on our child. Yes. Impossible. There are ABA services around the Portland, Vancouver area. They're not cheap. Our insurance, which I consider a relatively good insurance company, usually specifically states, I'm going to try to word this right, due to being self-insured, we are exempt from state law that requires us to cover autism services. I believe that's what they stated. Something about they provide their own insurance, they provide their own services because it's under a hospital, the insurance. They're exempt from state laws. They don't have to cover any autism services. We can get speech covered through, he has a speech delay. But if the diagnosis is anywhere autism on there, they're not going to cover it. And ABA is for autism behaviors. They're not going to cover ABA. So what we have to do is work with the state, get the Medicaid waiver for Avery for his disability. We have to find ourselves ABA therapies that are accepting new patients, which not all of them are because they're very limited. We have to fill out all the paperwork, have them evaluate Avery, make sure he's an appropriate fit. We need to bill our insurance. We need to get the rejection letter from our insurance before they can even bill Medicaid and have it covered.
Wow.
It's hoops that you have to jump through. It's not easy. As far as behavioral support through the state of Washington, we have so many dollars that we can spend on services for Avery, and that's wouldn't even have known about that unless I had my parent support.
Right.
So they have a behavioral support specialist, I believe that's what his title is, that will come in and work with Avery, come up with a picture schedule and some routines and that sort of thing. And that comes out of Avery's waiver dollars through the state of Washington. But again, I wouldn't have known to ask for this behavioral support specialist if it wasn't for my parent coalition person at the ARC of Southwest Washington. Because the state of Washington, much like the school district, they're not volunteering this information. They're not. As far as Lucy, because she has much less behavior issues, we've had a lot more success in finding education or fun activities for her to do through our particular county. They have a person that handles access to recreation. So we have Lucy in different camps at like summer and spring break, that sort of thing. And they assign what's known as a one-to-one mentor for Lucy. And that's an adult that stays with Lucy and helps her, go do these fun things and go on field trips and go to camp and facilitates interaction with other children. So we've had Lucy in different camps. We've had her in like swimming with the one-to-one mentor. We've had her in ballet with the one-to-one mentor. So for Lucy, it's gone really well. We've had no problems accessing fun activities for Lucy.
Is it free though?
There's no extra charge for the mentor. We still have to pay for the camp, just like any other parent would. But there's no extra charge for the mentor, which is nice. Now for Avery, Avery has far too many difficult behaviors to do the normal camps like Lucy does. Lucy's in a camp with normal children. Avery, with his difficult behaviors, he has to go to a special camp for autistic children. It's called Sensory Camp, and they have all one-to-one aides. They don't, unfortunately, they only operate in the summertime. So during winter break, during spring break, Avery's home. I mean, he's home from school. There's no camps that he can go to because of his behaviors, unfortunately. I've tried, a couple years ago, I did try taking Avery to a soccer program for special needs children. It didn't work. No, it didn't. It didn't work. We both left in tears that day. It was bad. So the only thing that we found for Avery that works is sensory camp, and it's been working out really well.
Good. Yeah. Awesome. That's good to know that's out there.
No, absolutely not. Because many reasons. One, Lucy's behaviors. She's like I said, she's a little flighty. Will wander off, go with anybody. Not safe. Not safe. As far as Avery, we've tried going to different places, Children's Museum, the zoo, just kids places. And if Avery is having a meltdown, he'll hit me, he'll hit his sisters, he'll hit random strangers. So it's not safe for us to go out. And it's hard to explain to, I'm sorry my child hit you. He's on the autism spectrum. I'm really sorry. Usually it just ends with him crying, me crying, let's get in the car, let's go home. As far as community events, like for instance, just like a simple family trip to the mall to get something. Avery beelines to the Lego store. We have to get a particular Lego train, just always the same train all the time. And me and Avery hung out in the van and built this Lego train while the family went and did their fun thing. Avery can't do those things. He can't participate. He doesn't understand. He doesn't care. He's in his own world. Yeah.
What about like going to the grocery store? Or
Avery is... It's difficult to get in the car and go, like for instance, we have a van. Avery sits here, and there's a little aisle. My 4-year-old sits on the other side, and Lucy sits in the back. If Avery's having his meltdown, he will reach over and start hitting Rosemary.
yeah.
It's not safe for me to put them in the car.
Yeah.
If I sit Avery in the back, he'll just reach forward and start hitting.
Yeah.
Going to the grocery store, a normal child, a typical child, I assume, would, see a package of cookies. Hey, can I have the cookies? You say no, they move on. They get in the cart, they do whatever. Avery will have a complete and total meltdown to where he's hitting his head on the floor in the middle of the grocery store and yelling. We can't do that. We can't go to the grocery store. So yeah, it's not possible. I would definitely say more awareness would be helpful. Sometimes when we're out, I'll get stares from parents, and it's like, I can't do anything about my son's behaviors. I'm sorry. He's melting down. He's freaking out. And I'll just get stares. It's like, my child's not bad. He's just autistic, and he sees, his favorite movie, and he's gonna grab it and take off running with it because that's what brings him joy. Please stop staring at us. I mean, autism is like, what, 1 in 70 now? But still, people aren't getting it, that it's everywhere. As far as better support, awareness, better access to recreational activities, more recreational activities that children with autism, because there's so many of them now. It's like sensory camp should be during spring break, during Christmas break, that sort of thing, because there's lots of kids on the autism spectrum that need those activities, that need that socialization. Parents need breaks. So I think awareness and more activities, and more support groups, more parent advocates, more. My family can afford a lawyer, barely. What about those families that can't? That need to advocate for their child, that don't know what to ask for, that need that support. There should be more access to those sort of services for families as well.
Yeah.
Definitely. My opinion is, maybe they think it's poor parenting. Maybe they think the child is just being bad. It's like, I was at the store yesterday, and I saw a child that had similar behaviors to Avery, and you can go your way and I can go my way, but instead I chose to say to the mom, hey mom, you're doing a great job. You're out with all your kids, and I can see your son has special needs, and way to go you. But it's like, there's nothing, that's the rare occasion that somebody would say that to me when I'm out at the store with my kids. there's just a lack of awareness. There's a lack of knowledge about what autism encompasses, and I think if more people understood, we'd be more supported. We could get out and do those things without fear of being judged.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know there's books out there for little kids,
Right.
that explain, in little kid terms, like, oh, this child is special, or they have difficulties communicating. I think the awareness should start at the preschool or at the school age,
Yeah.
not just adults.
Right.
If my 4-year-old goes to preschool and learns about autistic kids aren't scary,
Yeah.
that they're not, generally dangerous, that they're just kind of
Right.
autistic, I think she'll grow into a much more accepting adult, a much more supportive adult, an adult that would say, hey, Mom, you're doing a great job being out with your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Parents who-
Advice to parents would be making sure you're connected with other parents that have been through this. I think that's the most vital piece of advice, because other parents that have been through this will tell you what resources are out there, who to ask for these resources, how to access these resources, how to deal with your child's behavior, how to, hey, I've been through it, I've survived it, and just be that shoulder. They're the ones that are going to tell you, hey, go to this person for behavior support, for family support, for counseling, for a dentist. Definitely connect with other parents, either online or a physical group would definitely would be my number one piece of advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so
You're
much
welcome.
for interviewing with me.